All right. To be respectful of everybody's time, we're going to go ahead and get started. I am Lindsay Zilli. I'm the Director of Professional Learning for Illinois Digital Educators Alliance. We're so glad that you have some time to join us today. We have some rock star educators that are in the classrooms every day, just like you, that are going to share some of their expertise. They're also Apple educator trainers, so they know a little bit more about Apple than the average teacher would. So hopefully, if you have some questions, we'll all be able to answer them for you. Before we get started, I would ask that everybody please mute yourself and also turn off your video. Sometimes videos can get distracting during the webinar series. So if you're not presenting, we just ask that you're muted and your video is off. If you do have a question at any point during the webinar, please drop it in the chat. You can click on the chat at any point and either message the entire group or message people individually. But we do know that the strongest person in the room is the room. So make sure you're asking those questions so we can get some answers to you. This is getting recorded. So you will receive this recording as well as the transcript from the chat after we finish up today. And I didn't ask Julie, but I will. But Tanisha said that you are welcome to have her slide deck. And Julie's shared some Padlet resources that I'm sure she's willing to share. And we'll double check with her and make sure that she's cool with sharing anything else that she's presenting on today. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I am going to hand it over to Tanisha and Julie. They can introduce themselves. And then Tanisha, go ahead and take it away. So thank you all for being here today.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm an instructional tech specialist at a middle school here owned company, Flutter Tech. Hey, IdeaCon Planning Committee. Not sure if you guys are hearing me.
It was just a little bit broken up, Tanisha.
Okay. Sorry about that. I tried to make sure all the kids were off the Wi-Fi, no game playing until afterwards.
Yeah, right.
So hopefully nobody, yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and let Julie.
All right, Julie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Julie Ryan, and I'm an instructional technology specialist at Jack Healy Middle School in Oak Forest. I work with kids day in and day out. I work on a fabulous team. I have two other tech specialists in the district that are at the lower grades, and here I am. So together we've put together a lot of these task cards that I'm going to be talking about. And yes, I am more than happy to share everything with you guys.
All right, thank you so much, Julie. So with that being said, we're going to start off with Tanisha, who's going to talk a little bit about some accessibility features with the Apple tools. Is anybody else having difficulty hearing Tanisha?
Tanisha's on mute.
Okay. Tanisha? Jenna, are you able to unmute her? Hey, Tanisha, you're on mute and we can't hear you.
I keep unmuting her and she keeps muting herself back.
Okay, are we good now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, hey. All right, so let me go back to the presentation. So myself and two of the other tech specialists in my district created this iPad accessibility training to assist our aides as they work with our students with special needs, just to make sure that they're able to help them tailor their device for iPad accessibility features that talk from organization to those who may have visual impairment into its full capacity. All right, so to get started, whenever we do this training, we always ask participants to kind of label draw a diagram and label some features of their iPad, just to make sure that they're aware of what the iPad has. So when I'm saying certain things like the home button or the volume button, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So if you want to take out a sheet of paper and draw a diagram of the iPad and label 7 parts of it: the home button, the lightning connector, the volume buttons, the headset connector, the mic, and camera. So I'll give you a couple seconds to draw this out really quickly. Feel free to put HB for home button, LC for lightning connector, and so forth. Initials work just fine. All right, for time's sakes, we're going to go ahead and move on, and hopefully you were able to identify these parts. So here we have on the iPad, over here we have the front camera, and you also have a rear facing camera. Down here you have the home button. That's the big old circle at the bottom of your iPad or to the side, depending on how you hold it. Here we have at the top, you have your headphone jack. You also have your microphone. And on some iPads, you'll find that there's a mic in the front as well. At the bottom, you'll find your speakers, your dock connector. That's where you plug it up to charge it each and every night. A lot of people didn't know that that's the dock connector. And lastly, I didn't ask you to identify, but one of the parts that's important, and we'll talk about this soon, is the dock. This is the area that shows on your iPad where your saved apps and your most frequently used apps kind of hang out. So now that we've kind of identified some of the important parts of the iPad, we're going to look at that dock and talk about dock and deletion. So at the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and switch to my iPad. Here's my dock at the bottom here. And the dock allows me to get to those most frequent apps that I use, as well as identifying the ones that I've recently used. So you'll notice that there's this gray line over here to the right. So if we go over from the right 3 apps, you'll see a gray line. The items to the right are the most frequently used, well, should I say the most recently used. And then the ones over here to the left are the ones that I've stored there because I use them frequently. And so in order to add an app to that side, you simply would just drag the app that you wanted over there. So let's say I want to be able to get to my news app right away. So I'm going to drag that app down and put it over there. And so it'll stay there, always easily accessible to me through the dock. Any app that I don't want there, I can again just drag it away. Come on. All right, so in theory, I don't know if it's because of my screen sharing that it's acting the way it is, but just how you drag it in, you can drag it out. All right, so if you want to take a second to organize some of your apps, feel free to do so. Another feature that really works for our students is being able to group apps that are alike. So here I have a bunch of augmented reality apps that I enjoy using. And so I put them all together in one folder and called it AR. So that's a nice feature. And simply to begin a folder, you would just take something, okay, here's my games. I'll just start building up my games. And I'm gonna drag it on top and it just makes a folder. And because those two are classified as games, it gave it the folder name games. And so I can add items to that as well. And just another suggestion, apps that you don't use frequently, always tell students to store them on the last screen. So here's some apps that I may not use as frequently. All right. So that's doc and deletion. One of the things I want to go back to that's kind of new with the iOS 13 is the app deletion. So typically we would wait for it to wiggle and click the X, which still works. But notice when I hold it down, I get delete app as a choice and I can delete it right then and there. So just something new with the iOS 13 update. All right, moving on, we're going to look at Control Center. So the Control Center is a nice little spot over here to the right underneath your date and time. So I'm going to go back here and over to the date and time. If I swipe down with a little quick gesture, I get my Control Center. And this Control Center allows me to access certain app features quickly without having to go to settings and find the feature and then tapping on it. So one of the things that I love about the iPad now is that it has a screen recorder. And so the screen recorder can be activated from the Control Center, but you have to actually set it up first. So we're going to kind of do two things at once here. We're going to go to the Control Center to set up our screen recorder. So to do this, we're going to go to Settings. We're going to locate and tap on Control Center. Oops, let me get to my iPad, sorry. Once we're in Control Center, we'll notice Customize Controls over here to the right. So we're going to tap on Customize Control. And so any feature that we see here at the top that has a red minus, that means it's enabled. Anything that's down here with the green plus is disabled. So some of the things that I recommend for students to do is the screen recording. That's one. Another is the voice memo. That's two. And then I like stopwatch as well. And so once I swipe down on my Control Center, I'll see that those features are now accessible there. We'll talk about screen recording in just a moment. So if you want to take a minute and look at your features that are in the Custom Control Center and turn on the ones that you think you might want to use, or turn off ones that you've put there that you haven't used. All right, so that is the Control Center. And that's how you get features of your iPad added to the Control Center. Next, we'll look at large text. So if you're anything like me, your eyes start to challenge you, especially with this much computer use that I do with my day's work and just even my own pleasure, my social media addiction. So when we go to settings and then go over to accessibility, one of the things that we'll find, whoops, is display and text size. So we went from settings to accessibility to display and text size. So when I go into display and text size, I can turn on different text features. I can make everything bold. I can change the larger text. I can change the button shapes and so forth. So here's where I'm able to control those things, and these control everything throughout the iPad. I feel like I should be taking questions. All right, so moving on from large text, we're going to talk about the speak screen selection. So speak screen selection allows us to actually turn on the speak part of the iPad for words that we choose, text that we choose, paragraphs that we choose. In order for that to happen, we actually have to go into our settings and turn it on. We have to enable it. So we're going to go to settings again and go back to accessibility. And then we're going to look for spoken content and then choose speak selection. So settings, accessibility, spoken content, and speak selection. So I already have it enabled. It's disabled. So when it's green, it's enabled. Okay. And so now when I go to a news article, let's see if we can find something in fashion. Don't want to grab anything inappropriate here. All right. So let's say I'd like for it to read this paragraph to me. I grab the part of the paragraph I wanted to read, and notice I have the choice to speak. So it's copy, select all, look up, and then speak. And when I tap it, it actually speaks. I'm actually, because I'm sharing my iPad, you won't be able to hear it speak, sorry. All right, and once it's done, it returns back to speak. So I can change the select, hit speak, pause it if I need to. And so that is the speak screen selection. Next is just speak screen. And so this is great for students. We just had a student not too long ago who had a concussion, and the amount of reading that the student was able to do was very minimum as far as screen time on the iPad. And so listening to the iPad speak was an option for that student. And so speak screen just allows it to read the entire screen. And that means the address bar, the menu choices. So everything that is visible on the screen, the speak screen will actually read. So to enable that, we'll go through the same steps as we did for the speak selection. We'll go to settings, go to accessibility, go back to spoken content, and then this time we would enable speak screen. And so speak screen, once you're on the site that you wanted to read or the document that you wanted to read, you would swipe down with 2 fingers and bring down a controller. So I'm just going to do a 2-finger swipe gesture from the top, and then that's the speak screen navigation tool. And so I'm able to put it where I want it to start with the finger. I can rewind, I can pause, I can use the 1X and speed it up. Maybe it's reading too slow. And then of course with the X, I can exit out. So that's the speak screen. And again, the only difference is that it will read the entire screen, starting with the site name, the address, and so forth. You can control both the speak selection and speak screen with the speech controller. You can change the voices. Students love this. And a person with hearing concerns like I do, certain voice tones don't resonate well. And so finding a voice that works really well for you is always a good option. So we go into English and we're able to see that there's all these different English voices. And then they get into different accents speaking English that you can choose from. One of the things that we found, the tech specialist and I, is that Alex is really nice because it mimics a human voice. So if Alex is reading to you, it would sound as if a human being is reading to you and not a computer. So if there was one I would suggest, it would be Alex. All right, notifications. So notifications are great, but they can also be annoying and distracting. So one of the things that we go through with our students is just to talk about what notifications do so that they know which ones they should turn on and turn off. So there's lock screen notifications. And lock screen notifications allow you to see the notifications when your screen is locked. So if you just tap your home button without putting in your code or letting your fingerprint open the screen, you can see notifications on the lock screen. The notification center is when you're in your iPad and you swipe from the top, a window comes down, that's your notification center. I can show you that. So I'm going to one finger gesture from the top in the center, and that's my notification center. And so it will give me all the notifications I've received when I wasn't on my device. Then we have badges. So badges are nice. Badges look like this. So when you see that red circle with a number, that is telling you how many notifications you have for that specific app. So this works pretty good for the students because it is visual. And so whenever they're going through their apps or they're actually opening the app, they'll see whether or not they have notifications for that app. Then of course there's banners. Banners are the ones that kind of distract us. They drop down from the top right side of the screen. My Google Hangout banners pretty much get me in trouble. I can go down a rabbit hole easily with those. Mail notifications. But I do like my banner when it's time for a meeting so that I know that I have 10 minutes or 5 minutes to get to my meeting. So it helps me stay punctual. So, and then of course, sound. We encourage our students to turn off the sound on their banners just because in a class setting that can be quite distracting. But some students have sound notifications set up to only work at a certain time. So when they're at home, those banner sounds still work for them. So to change your notifications, we're going to go back to settings and we're going to find notifications. And once we're in notification, every app that we have, tap and touch each and every one of those. So for my GarageBand, I currently have notifications off, but if I was to turn it on, I would have to deselect lock screen, deselect notification center, deselect banners, turn off sound, turn off badges. But since I'm going to turn off all of those items anyway, it's just easier to not allow notifications. All right. Next is dictionary. So dictionary allows us to highlight a word to look up what it means. This is great when students are reading and they're not sure what a word is. And sometimes, you know, they'll just skip over it. and totally miss the meaning of that sentence or that paragraph altogether. And so this allows them to get the meaning of the word, or just to double check the meaning of the word if they're not sure. So we're going to open up a website and we're going to double tap the word, and we should see in our options to look it up and actually get a definition as to what that word is. So let's go ahead and try that. So let's just do vibrant. Notice there's the copy, select all, and then there's lookup. So when I tap on lookup, it actually tells me what vibrant means. This is an amazing tool for students and adults as well. All right. My favorite, Safari screen reader. Again, if you're anything like me, any distractions that pop up on my screen can be an instant rabbit hole for me, especially during the holiday season when I've been eyeing certain items at certain stores. All of a sudden those ads are popping up and they're showing discounts, and it's so hard to stay focused. So the Safari reader allows you to get rid of the distractions on your screen, and also allows you to tailor the view for what's appropriate for you in order to have a comfortable reading experience on your iPad. So let's look at how we can enable Safari screen reader. So if looking on our iPad over here to the top right, I have this double A. And so when I tap on the double A, it's allowing me to actually enlarge the text. I'm going to do this actually from Safari so you can get a better look. Okay, notice when I came to this site, it says Safari screen reader is available, but here I have the double A in the left corner. So when I tap on the double A, it's gonna show me that the screen reader is available because it says show reader view. If that is grayed out, then the site that you're on or the article that you're on doesn't support Safari reader view. Which is okay, but it does work really nice. So let me show you what the website kind of looks like. Well, there's not a lot on here right now. It's a really short website. Anyway, notice that one says no reader view. So let's go back to home where we can tap reader view. Oh, it went away. Go back, go back. So notice how it took away all of the extra, the visuals, the color is gone, everything that would have been distracting is gone. And so I just have a clean copy of this article. If I go back to the reader view, which is now black with white A's, if I tap it again, it shows underneath that I can change the font. So notice it says New York. I'm going to tap there. And these are the other fonts that I can choose. Again, finding a font that works best for my eyes. If I go back, and I notice that there's a small A to the left and a large A to the right. If I tap on the large A, it's actually going to enlarge the text. If I tap on the small A, it does the exact opposite. It'll make it smaller. So again, adjusting the article font and the article font size improves my reading experience. And then of course, if there's a specific background that works for me, so I'm in font, I can change these different backgrounds, again, helping me find the one that works best for my eyes. This, the students find extremely helpful. As soon as they go here, a lot of them actually go into web settings and set it so that any site that has reader view will automatically go into reader view. Again, it's not only for keeping you focused with your reading, but also tailoring the website to what works best for your eyes. And split view. So split view just allows you to be a little bit more productive and keep you from switching from app to app to app to app. So it allows you to split your screen and do double the work. So here's this article that I'm reading about. Let's say I want to take notes about this article. Oh, I probably should show you this before I leave Safari Reader View, and I will. This is one of the things that I love about it. So once it's in Safari Reader View, if I click my export arrow over here to the right of the address bar, I have the ability to click markup. Now I can actually annotate on this document if I want. And so I'm in annotate mode. I tap on the marker pins in the top right. Should have brought up my, oh. Okay, there it is. So now if I want to annotate on the document, I could do so. I'll highlight. Check that out. So I went from Safari Reader View to export to actually marking up the document, which is super cool, super nice, and very helpful for students. And when I'm done, save it to files. I'm just gonna cancel out. All right. Now we can go to split view. So I'm in Safari Reader View and I want to actually take notes. So I'm going to pull up my doc and then I'm going to grab notes and I'm going to drag it over to the right and let it go. So now I have my website to the left and I have my notes to the right and I can start taking notes. And this is called split view. You can adjust so there's more reading. Maybe I want to see more of it. Then I can go back over and type in my notes. So this is adjustable. And when you're done, just swipe it all the way out and you're back to full screen. All right, floating keyboard. Sometimes when you are typing, the keyboard does get in the way. And so the floating keyboard just allows you to, with 2 fingers, you're gonna make the gesture to pull it together and your keyboard will float, and use the gray line at the bottom. Oh, I guess you need to see it, don't you? There we go. So 2 fingers, I'm gonna pinch the 2 fingers together with a gesture. And now I have a little keyboard that I can move around. I'm using the little gray line here at the bottom to move the keyboard around. And when I want the keyboard to be regular size, I'm going to reverse that gesture to open. And now I have a full size keyboard again. All right, so pinch together, it floats, move it where you need it to go, reverse the pinch, and now you have full screen again. So that's the floating keyboard. And Lastly, writing with dictation. I love to see students do this. It's been one of the greatest things that I've seen that really helps students amplify their voice. We've all had situations where students tell us a story, and when they're able to tell it, it is so rich. It has descriptive language. They're using words that they know what they mean and they know how to say them, but they may not be able to spell them. And so this allows them to tell their story, to get their words out the way they would if they could say it. And so here I have my screen up, and notice that right next to the emoji, when you have your numbers, your emoji across the bottom, to the left of the space bar, you will see a microphone. And so simply by tapping that microphone, I can voice type. Good morning, everyone. I hope that this short little webinar on iPad accessibility features has been helpful and useful to you. It's been a pleasure showing you just a few things that you can get out of your iPad, period. Wonderful. All right, so that's all I have for some accessibility features on your iPad. I'm going to stop sharing and turn this over to Lindsay.
We just had question, Tanisha. They asked if you could go over how to get rid of split screen view again,
Yes.
and then we'll hop over to Julie real quick.
Okay.
I'm on mute right now. I'm going on in about 2 minutes.
All right. So we're in notes, so I'll stay here in notes. I'm going to bring up my doc, and I'm going to bring back up Safari. Yeah. So right in the middle, there's this gray line that I use to adjust the size of the screens. When I swipe this all the way to the left, it will close out the one to the right. So I'm just going to drag it all the way over, and now I'm out of split view. So one more time. Whoops, I did a screen over. Didn't want to do that, sorry. All right, so then I'll swipe this over. You want to swipe it to the left, it does the same thing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tanisha.
You're very welcome.
And I dropped Tanisha's presentation in the chat so you can reference that later, but we're going to hand it over to Julie Ryan, who's going to give you some creativity options for utilizing these features with iPad. So Julie, take it away.
Okay, I'm going to try, and never done this before, so share my desktop. Do I just click desktop? Oh.
So in the bottom of the Zoom, there's a share button.
Right, I did that.
And then you click on the screen you want to share.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, should I open the presentation?
Yay!
Okay, hold on. Ah,
There you go.
Okay, awesome.
That's you.
All righty. So imagine that you're sending home all of these lessons on iPads for your students. Hold on a second. There we go. For your students and their parents to follow. And parents have no idea what you're talking about. I'm with my son and his family right now, and all the neighbors are asking me, like, how do I do this? How do I do that? And it's not real clear to either the kids or the parents. So we've been using task cards for quite a while to share with our students what the workflow, the expected workflow is that they'll be completing. And this was a video I'm trying to present, there we go. Yay, okay. It's a video from Goonies, and it talks about the kids are going around and they find a secret map. Just a real quick snippet of it. All right, so you get the idea. If you give students something they recognize, it'll help them to complete whatever the workflow is. So think about when you're giving directions to either students or parents, you need to be specific. Second star to the right and straight on to morning isn't going to get them to where they need to go. So this is an example of a task card. It starts with the task that they have to complete at the top. All right, so you're going to create a video using green screen, place you and your team members at the North Pole having a snowball fight. Don't forget to name your video and save it to photos. This below it is the workflow by app. So they're going to start with their camera roll. They're going to go to Safari. They're going to save everything to the photos. They're going to go to iMovie. They're going to narrate it. They're going to export it out, and they're going to save it again to their photos. When we give our directions, if it's complicated or if it's something new to them, we actually link a video at the bottom, and that gives them something to follow, and it gives learners different ways of accessing the information you're giving them. You've given them visual cues, you've given them written directions, and then you've given them videos. This is, I just helped our STEAM teacher create this. So she wants her students to create a presentation, and she wasn't sure how to go about it. And I'm like, just give them the apps and they will know what to do. So if you tell the kids, create the presentation and you can choose one of the following, they will be all about it. Some kids like clips, some kids like green screen, some kids like iMovie, and other kids are more comfortable with Keynote. All of them can be exported as a video because we're going to need a video for the share presentation of this project. And this is just, when we're talking about collaboration, our kids don't always get how to collaborate effectively and efficiently. So I created this for my students so that they would start in Google Keep and they would create their checklist and who was responsible for what. They kept a folder in the drive for everyone to share their stuff to, and then they would use Keynote to create their presentation and their video presentation. So when you're creating a task card, the things you want to keep in mind are your lesson objective, what's your workflow, and your step-by-step. And when you create your step-by-step, have someone else read it who is not tech savvy. Have someone read it who can go through it and hand them an iPad and say, can you follow this? And that gives, then you know that your parents are going to feel comfortable and your kiddos are going to feel comfortable when they're trying to complete whatever task you have. And right now, the kids love these kinds of creative projects. So whenever you can, give them something to create and do and go outside their box. They're at home driving everybody crazy. So if you say, go videotape this and go create this and talk about this, they're all about it. And a lot of the icons that I used, we used Mask to Fill to create those icons. And so here are the directions for how to do masking with Keynote, with PowerPoint, or with slides, whichever one you're more comfortable with. And that will allow you to create those tasks. So you don't necessarily have to use Apple apps. You can use whatever it is. I've used Google apps, I've used things I found online, and I've just kept them abreast of that visual aspect of it. This right here is a link to a Padlet that we've created, and I'm going to give you a little snippet right now where it is. We've put out all of our task cards for you to see, so you can maybe get an idea of things you can use, how to use the directions. I've asked people to kind of join in and donate to them too. So right now it's just the tech specialists in our district that are doing this, but feel free to add to it if you want. Use whatever you see here. That's fine with me. Are there any questions? I know I went really fast.
No, that's great, Julie. I love that you have all of these task cards easily outlined that can easily be shared with families. So now we're not recreating the wheel. People are able to see the content that's important to include, as well as the process. So that's really going to be a game changer, I think, for a lot of people. In addition to some other tools, there is an app that I just dropped into the chat called Shadow Draw that helps with handwriting. So if your learners are practicing handwriting or note taking, Shadow Draw is a new app that can be found in the App Store. It's free, that you can also work on that sort of thing with. So any kind of tools that we can use to support that academic learning, like Julie was saying, build off of things that they're doing to keep them engaged. We want to be able to support that. So if there are any questions, please pop them in the chat, or you can reach out to any one of us. You now have the link to Julie's Padlet with the task cards, have the presentations from Tanisha and Julie. So you're armed with some good stuff that you can also share with your parents and the families that you're working with too. So with that being said, let me grab your PDHs, and then we will have our way. Just a big thank you to Tanisha and Julie for not only taking the time today to meet with us, but also to create these presentations to share. I know that can be very time consuming on top of the work that you're already doing. So really, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. And in the chat is a link to your PDHs. So not only but you're getting credit for learning, and you can share the wealth. So thank you everybody for joining us today. You will be receiving an email with this presentation, the webinar recording, as well as the chat. So if you didn't catch it all, you'll be able to reference it another time. Good luck, everybody.